The Gathering by Elizabeth Newman of Stanmore 2048. Narrated by Janine Penfold. It started off peacefully enough. The bowl of still water reflected the sunlight, a lone bee buzzing lazily nearby where a clump of dandelions had sprouted along the path. The Indian miners flitted in the treetops, secure in their territory, while the pigeons flocked on the grassy mound, searching for feed left by the afternoon picnickers. A lone jogger pounded the path, puffed up the hill and disappeared from view. Suddenly, the stillness was shattered by the streak of ginger that bolted into the middle of the grassy area. The pigeons up and flew, while Honey ran and sniffed and stopped and looked and then ran back to urge on her human companion. Jane was following along behind, the thrower firmly grasped in her hand. "Go!" she called as she hurled the tennis ball to the far side of the grass, with Honey in feverish pursuit. But before Honey could claim her trophy, Blackie's pelt dashed across from the shadows of the bushes and interrupted the chase. Blackie and Honey romped together, chasing and leaping with joyful exuberance. Soon the two were three, as another small dog, Poppy, raced into the fray and joined the playful tumbling. It wasn't long before all the regulars had arrived. From the youngest to the eldest, they gathered in the sunshine. Balls were thrown, leads tangled, and the aroma of homemade treats sent the canine companions dizzy with desire. Some leapt, some sat, some twirled on their hind legs, but all were focused on the tray of veggie victuals brought by Poppy's humans, Dawn and her dad. One by one, Dawn administered the sumptuous delicacies to her adoring worshippers. All received. The nice, the naughty, the noisy. It was Christmas Eve, and none would be denied. Meanwhile, the humans were celebrating with their liquid refreshments disguised as coffee or cordial. The chat and cheer abounded, while they kept an eye on their canine companions. Flo and Catherine, the eldest humans, were sitting sedately on the bench in the shade, watching the spectacle. They came every afternoon, weather and legs permitting, to get their share of doggy companionship. Finn, the youngest and most nimble human, was high up in the adjacent play structure, watching out for the council ranger. He'd been provisioned with lollies and chips as payment for guard duty. They hoped that today of all days, the ranger would not interrupt their party. Mick and Lee Min were comparing yum cha restaurants and wondering why Phil, their mate, was late, while Shelley and Den were bemoaning the price of petrol when Finn's piercing whistle signalled danger. Dawn's dad, who was bragging about her latest sporting triumphs, stopped mid-sentence. "Here, Poppy," he strictly commanded, and quickly collared her. Jane followed suit by shaking her treat tin and harnessing Honey when she obediently came. Kelly successfully crash-tackled Blackie, but Finn's sister was chasing after Scamp, who had raced off into the bushes, no doubt investigating some scent or other. That dog would not have been out of place with a monocle. Scamp's lead was trailing behind him, but Sister Sarah just couldn't grab it. Mick and Lee Min exchanged a look and stood their ground as their dogs gleefully romped alongside the ranger, escorting him into the grassy area. "Now, I've warned you lot before," the ranger said, as he strode down the path, his tummy proceeding. "And a Merry Christmas to you too," Kelly muttered under her breath. "You've got a perfectly good dog park over there." The ranger gesticulated vigorously to the enclosure on the other side of the playground. "But you keep allowing your dogs on the grassy area." All the humans chimed in as one. It's too crowded. There's no grass. They're all the big dogs. But before the ranger could reply, a cacophony of horns started up as late Phil rode in on his wheelchair, his ageing rescue greyhound trotting amiably beside him. Phil always sounded his horn when crossing the road to the park. Merry Christmas, everyone! Phil's grey akubra was slouched low over his face, but his wide smile shone out as he casually said, "How's it going, folks? Ah, Russell, you've come to join us for our special Yuletide ceremony. Now, Phil, why haven't you got that dog on a leash?" Russell, the ranger, was not going to be cajoled, even at Christmas. Before anyone could answer, Scamp raced out from the bushes with a now very grubby and dishevelled Sarah running after him, her eyes glued to the end of Scamp's lead. "Grab him, please," Sarah implored, and in her hurry, she ploughed straight into the very long legs of Russell, the ranger, fell back on her bottom, and burst into tearful laughter, mortified with embarrassment. "Are you all right, Sarah? What did you do, mister?" yelled Finn as he hurtled to his sister's aid, oblivious to what had gone before. "This is exactly why dogs need to be on a leash." Russell's voice was adamant and rising in pitch. But as though to outdo him, suddenly a tremendous ruckus of snarling and growling sounded from the enclosed dog park. Human voices could be heard commanding and calling, vainly trying to settle the pack. "Now, Russell, I think you're needed over there." Phil's voice was low but commanding, and with one finger he raised the brim of his akubra and looked Russell straight in the eyes. Russell looked around at the waiting group. The gentle dogs had gathered around the sniffling Sarah and were nuzzling and licking her so that her tears had turned to giggles. "It's all right, Russell. We'll look after her. We know it wasn't your fault." The eldest, Catherine, cooed persuasively as she propped herself up with her walking stick. And with that, Russell turned and strode off up the hill to where he was really needed. "Merry Christmas, everyone," whispered Jane mischievously as she pulled out a bag of goodies from her sack. "Anyone for gingerbread? Suitable for dogs and humans." The end.